Hey everybody, welcome to Movies We're Talking About, where we talk and talk and talk about movies. I'm John Carlos, and today I am joined by comedian and friend Ben Kliewer. Say hello.
Hey everybody, it's me, old buddy Ben Kliewer.
Old
Um,
buddy Ben.
Old buddy Ben. I started doing that on the podcast that I'm on, the Con Guy, which JC, you've been a guest on before many years ago. We should have you back on. Um, and but it comes from the old Bert and Ernie sketch on Sesame Street where Ernie's just like old buddy Bert, oh do do do, and I referred to myself as old buddy Ben, and I was like, why does that sound familiar? What is that? And then I was like, oh. Well, that works. I'll keep doing that.
I love, like, I forget, I wish I could cite the reference, but there was a movie I watched recently, and there was a person in it said a thing, and I went, oh, that's where I got that from. I've been saying that for like 20 years, and I know I got it from, it's from,
Yeah. No,
I,
I relate to that a lot because every once in a while I'll hit that exact same experience where I'm just like, "Oh, that's where I got that from." I say that literally every day.
yeah, yeah. I actually I have a few of those with this movie, even though they very rarely present themselves. But whenever someone talks about something that was an inspiration or like they're inspired, I go, I'll say, I'm going to start a paper route right now. I'm like, oh, I can quote this, and I love to quote that line.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's a lot. If I may jump in,
Yeah.
um, for me, growing up, and this was a tradition that started before me, really. Randomly, one Christmas Eve, when my older brothers were young, and this may have been when I was an infant or too young to remember, or possibly before I was born, I don't know. But my cousins were over and they were trying to figure out what to do on Christmas Eve, and so they watched Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And then it became this tradition of watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure on Christmas Eve. Um, Through when I was growing up and being a little kid, and then my brothers got older, and then they didn't really want to watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure on Christmas Eve anymore. And I was still a kid because my brothers are quite a bit older than I am. And so I was like, but I want to watch it. And so then I just would start watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure on Christmas Eve by myself sometimes, or around Christmas time for whatever reason. Um, but one of the funny things is, speaking of lines that you quote, is one of my cousins is named Andy. And so we'd see him and we just go, Andy, you know. Uh,
I have a friend, a dear friend named Andy,
there you
and
go.
that is how we say his name. You kind of have to.
You have to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, so this movie runs deep for me.
Yeah.
And it's you know, it was a trip because I just watched it this afternoon. And I haven't watched it in a few years. I've watched it in the last 10 years at some point, but it's been a few since I watched it. And so it was a trip to kind of go back and relive, and just so much nostalgia and so much, especially now myself living in Los Angeles, I used to live just down the street from Warner Brothers, and just to see where they filmed everything, the opening scene with the Tour de France, when I was a kid, you think that's France.
No, yeah, it's so not.
No,
That is
that's
Southern
not France.
California.
That's a park in the valley
Yeah, I
somewhere,
was gonna say that is a little north of Hollywood. It looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that is over the hill. Yeah, or over the.
yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, exactly. So it was just funny to me to kind of watch it and pick those things out and pick up. I picked up some things that I today that I had not realized
same,
before.
same. And I watch this movie. No joke, about every year or two.
Hmm.
It's a lot of mileage. Like I yeah. So and it's been twice this year, just a few days ago, and then I was on a flight about 2 months ago, and that you can pick, of the hundreds of movies you can watch on the little screen in front of you.
Yeah.
And there's all these new releases, and I'm like, I want something that I know is going to be Pee-wee's Big Adventure is right there. Boom. No, like
Wow.
that was it.
Well, that's hilarious that it was even an option
Yeah,
because
they
it's
have. Yeah, I think
40
they have.
years old.
Yeah, I forget who I was flying, but they have a partnership with Max, so there's a bunch of Warner Brothers titles on there
Okay, there you
because
go.
Discovery, Warner Brothers, HBO, and all that crap. But I'll tell you the one thing I noticed this time that I never noticed it ever. When when he's on the bike and he comes around the corner towards Twisted Sister,
Right.
there's a dude back there wearing a black fedora and a Thriller jacket, and I'm like, I mean, it's
I
not
did
supposed to.
not see that.
There's a he's not Michael Jackson. Michael
He's not
Jackson
Michael Jackson, but he
in
is.
1985 because it's a white dude, and how
Yeah.
prescient was that? But like in 1985, he was still very black.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a fucking little Michael Jackson dude walking back there.
Just that whole scene when he's I mean, that is I was sitting there watching it today with the chase scene through the Warner Brothers backlot, and it is such a classic like chase scene, and I know it was lampooning a lot of things, the traditional action movie chase scene, but it is so iconic, and it is like, I watched this thinking, oh yeah, they really just took this as they took the script from Pee-wee's Big Adventure and then just tweaked a few things, and that's how they got Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yeah.
Like that's all. And because I was just kind of connecting and realizing how much everything just paralleled, and to the backlot chase scene, but it there's so much of what I grew up understanding about filmmaking in Hollywood that just came from watching Pee-wee's Big
Oh
Adventure.
yeah.
Like, oh yeah, you
Like
could just they're filming movies all the time on any number of sound stages and you can just run through them.
including they make Godzilla at Warner
Yeah,
Brothers, which eventually, with the Legendary partnership, they do now.
that's
But
true.
like, yeah, that, to me, it didn't. I just presumed, like, well, of course, Japanese filmmakers are. This is Hollywood's where they make
Right.
movies.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it plays on such I mean, it plays on the. It's very old timey cliche, but like, it's a surf picture.
Yeah.
We're teens and we're dancing. Nobody was making surf pictures in 1985,
No.
but Paul Reubens is of a certain generation that respects a certain level of kitsch from what he
Yeah.
grew up watching. So there's a very typical. I mean, I say typical, but like this, there's a Christmas movie being made. Like it could be Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. It could be anything, but it's
Yeah.
that beach picture isn't even like a real movie. It's just a beach scene.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, a lot of beach movies had like, oh no, they're going to shut down the beach. We better throw a luau and raise some money.
Yeah. It was
We
a
got to save
very
the beach.
it was a very mid-century Annette Funicello beach movie
Mm-hmm.
vibe.
In
Um
1985.
in 1985.
Yeah.
At least 20 years too late, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the just breaking down, uh, I just had so many thoughts just sitting down and watching it from the very opening. Like I mentioned, this is not France. This is a park in the valley somewhere. And then he wakes up, and I remember as a kid being so upset that he didn't live in the playhouse.
Yeah.
Like I was like, wait a second, this isn't. Where's Cherry? Where's Curtis the cow? Where's everybody? Like this is a goofy house, and all that. But I was so disappointed that the Playhouse and the characters from Pee Wee's Playhouse didn't make an appearance in this. And I didn't realize was what I guess was Pee Wee's Playhouse before
Well, it was
the
after
movie?
this.
It was after the movie.
There
So
was there was the Pee Wee Herman show, which was like the
okay,
special that he eventually developed,
okay,
and they filmed that for HBO. People tell me if I'm wrong. And then I thought the movie happened, and then based off that success and everything, then the TV show happened, and the TV show is structured. It's an extension of the Pee Wee Herman show.
okay.
You know,
That makes sense then.
because the live show did have Clocky and a whimsical
Okay.
set and Zombie and people that would
Mechalika
visit.
High.
Yeah, all that. So yeah, I had a very well. I can speak in broader terms, but I did have certain updates throughout my life. Like when I was a kid, because I mean, this movie came out. I don't even know. I must have seen it started around maybe 5 or 6, but it came out while I
Mhm.
was still technically 4. And yeah, I remember going, "Hey, what the fuck?" If a kid could think, "Fuck, this isn't fucking Pee Wee's Playhouse." I mean, it's neat,
Yeah.
but where's all the things I know? And then I got to a slightly older age, somewhere around like 7, where I'm like, Pee-wee's playhouse. This
Yeah,
is his home, and
right,
then he goes to his play. And at the end of the episode, he gets in his scooter and he drives away,
right,
presumably to come to this home because this house has a bed in it and a kitchen, and that one's
right.
just a playhouse.
And yeah, and
That
the
and that and that is maturing. Then that is me going
right,
from age 5 to age 7. And I put away childish things, and I spoke as a
indeed.
man and all that shit, or whatever the quote is.
Whatever it is. Um,
I spake as a child. I
yeah,
fucking, I'm
did all
trying to
that
quote
shit.
the Bible to the guy who would know what I'm talking about.
That my background
Yes, as we went
just
into with dogma. Oh yeah, yeah.
but
It's oh yeah. Your physical background is.
my physical background. Sorry, I was like, yeah, rock horns. Then it just looked like I was shaking my fist at you.
Yeah, you're fisting me. Yeah,
Uh,
but yeah.
that's gonna be your highest rated show.
Mm. But no, that's emblematic of a. I think that's the right word I want of a bigger thing. Which, and I don't have this with a lot of movies, where my relationship with this movie radically changed over the years, and I don't have that
Mhm.
with a lot of other things. I'll give you an example of how like it didn't change that much. When I saw Empire Strikes Back at 6 years old, and when I saw watch Empire Strikes Back this week, I generally understood the story both times. When I was
Mhm.
a kid, I didn't understand as much of the meat of like being quick to your actions and letting in fear and anger as a path to the
Mhm.
dark side. I just knew there was a good side and a bad side.
Right.
But generally, I got it. Pee Wee's a movie that, like, it was one thing to me as a child.
Hmm.
And there was maybe a lot of humor that I didn't fully understand, or just I didn't register things were as jokes. And then you just get, I remember getting to my teens and realizing, like, oh, yeah, yeah, like that was a fun kids movie and the clowns were scary and fucked me up, but there's a lot of good
Yeah.
humor. I reached the point where, like, somewhere in my early 20s, I'm like, without being any hyperbole, I'm like, Pee Wee's Big Adventure is one of the best comedies ever made. I can watch this over and over and over and laugh and laugh and laugh. It is a masterpiece of comedy. But like 5 or 6 year old me would never have said that. 5 or 6 year old
Yeah.
me was just happy to see this giant man child kind of farting around and I didn't understand, like, not even like there's much to understand, but the way like Dottie wants to kind of go to the movies with them, and he's like, "Ew, no!" But then he walks away and he's giggling to himself. Like, there's a lot of
Right.
intentions. I didn't understand what Cassandra Peterson's like. I say you let me have him first. I don't even
Yeah.
know what any of that means.
Yeah.
I'm too young to even register. She's got massive tits, and like, what is like? I'm just
Yeah.
a child.
I think when I was a kid, when I saw that scene particularly, I say let me have him first. I think I knew there was something that was supposed to be dirty, but I didn't know what it was. Like when I was a kid. And in that scene, I today when I was watching it and he dances to tequila and then all the bikers are his friends and they walk him out of the bar and he's got a vest and they give him a motorcycle and he takes off. I knew it was coming. I've seen this scene 1,000 times. When he takes off on the motorcycle, he obviously can't drive it and drives right through the sign for the bar. I had to pause it. I was laughing so hard. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming, but it was just executed so, like the timing, the way they all just fell silent immediately afterwards. It was so well done, and it is incredible because I love to look at this and think of this as uh this was Tim Burton's first motion
Mm-hmm.
picture, like first feature, and then Beetlejuice after that, right?
Yep.
So you start seeing, particularly in the dream sequences, Tim Burton getting Tim Burton-y, especially with the clown surgical dream sequence where
Yeah.
they're rushing it through the
This like asymmetrical series of like hallway frames.
yeah, with
Yeah.
the black and white checkered floor and everything. Um, and another thing, my wife walked in while I was watching the scene with Simone where they're talking in the dinosaurs at Cabazon, and I just mentioned to her, and she knows this, but I'm just like, I think it's great that this is Tim Burton's first movie, and Pee Wee and Simone play the Penguin's parents in
Mm-hmm.
Batman Returns, 8 years later or whatever. Um, and it was actually one of the joys of my life, a bucket list item, if you will, I did a road trip from my home where I grew up in Kansas with my mom. My mom and I did a road trip from Kansas back to Los Angeles a year before I got married. And we made it we made a big road trip out of it. You know, we went and saw the Grand Canyon, we went and did this and that and the other thing. We went and saw all these fun things. And one of them was stopping in Cabazon, California and seeing the dinosaurs. Um, and then a few years later I did another road trip.
That's a T-Rex right there.
Oh, there you go.
I got that at Cabazon.
Oh, that's cute.
And it's wearing a little Pee-wee suit.
Yeah, well, then a couple years ago, right after Paul Reubens died, I happened to be on another road trip from Kansas back to California when my mom sold the house I grew up in, and I flew out there, rented a car, and brought all the rest of my shit from back home out here, and stopped there again, and they had painted the
Hmm.
T-Rex with the gray suit, and so that was special. So I've been there twice. I've never gone inside the dinosaurs, but I figure it's not the same as the movie.
It
So
is not. It is very little.
yeah, that's what I thought.
You could you follow stairs up and like maybe two people, like one person, but two people could kind of sit in there. But yeah, it's not. The movie greatly exaggerates. First of all, like
Yeah.
I think they're seated either on, like on a tongue or a
They're
ripple
on
or
a
seats.
giant rolling tongue. I mean,
Yeah,
it's seats made out of the
of
tongue,
tongue. Yeah, there's
which
no
is great
seats.
set design, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. It's just a stairwell that ends and you can kind of stand in the mouth. That's it.
Right.
Same thing with the Alamo, because I found this out. Because I myself had a road trip. Me and my special lady friend, her mom had never been to the Alamo, and she's like, "I want to go to the
Mhm.
Alamo." And Tracy and I are like, "The Alamo, like
Yeah.
fuck yeah!" Like I know history and everything's but like we got to go. So yeah, we went there, and we're all Pee Wee nerds about it when we went.
Yeah.
But aside from the exterior of Pee Wee going in and the exterior of him running out,
Yeah.
everything else you see there is not the fucking Alamo
Yeah.
at all.
And
Yeah, I'm sure it's a mission in California because this whole movie was filmed in
right.
California. Yeah.
Well, and that same road trip that I went and right after Paul Reubens had died, I was with my friend Cherry, and he had I had recruited him to go on the road trip with me because I knew he had the time off and had the time to do it. And his family is in Fort Worth, and we were driving down basically south from Wichita to Fort Worth, and then we were gonna drive across the country back to LA. And we were like, you know, Paul Reubens had just passed away, and we were like, it's what, 2, 3 hours to San Antonio? And like that morning, we decided we're going to go down and stay in San Antonio. And we stayed at the Crockett Hotel, which in the scene when he's running out of the Alamo, you can see the sign for it up in like this
Oh.
corner of the screen up here. But we stayed at the Crockett Hotel, which is supposedly haunted, although we did not get any
Mhm.
encounters, unfortunately. And we took a tour of the Alamo. And when we were in the gift shop, I took a video of me asking one of the people where the basement was. And they kind of played along. They were like, well, we don't let anybody down there, blah, blah, blah. But it was neat. And it's really cool to tour the Alamo, but it
Oh,
does,
yeah.
it looks absolutely nothing like what they do and what's her name from Saturday Night Live, the tour guide,
Jan Hooks.
Jan Hooks. And another thing,
Adobe.
Adobe. Um, there are thousands and thousands of use for corn, all of which I will list right now. Like that whole thing. And I didn't, when I was watching it today, I didn't realize this movie is just gag after gag after gag,
Mhm.
like straight through for 90 minutes. And it's fantastic. Um, and I also love just noting from a writer's perspective and somebody who looks at, how the story is constructed and that sort of thing. And I am by no means an expert, but I can appreciate it. This is a 90-minute movie that tells a complete story, and we get everything we need to understand, as it happens. Within 10 minutes, we know his rivalry with Francis. We know how much his bike means to him. We know who all the players in his life are, with Amazing Larry and all, everybody. And then, 12 minutes into the movie or something like that, I think his bike gets stolen. And if you think about that, up to the point where his bike gets stolen, so much has already happened
Oh
in a
yeah,
short amount of time. And I think, we talk about like, oh, attention spans nowadays, movies have to be quick and everything. And I feel like uh, they take so much more time now to explain, like, they would take so much more time to explain why his bike means so much to him with flashbacks and all this kind of when he got the bike and blah, blah, blah. And it was just like, no, you just show him, fawning over his bike
right.
and being in love with it. And we know everything we need to know.
We have all these loving close-ups, and there's
Yeah.
almost like a filter, like a little haze to it, and
Yeah.
that's how he sees it. And then yeah, just the way he rubs it, the way he plays with it. It's 30 seconds, and we got it.
Yeah. Um,
Also, I appreciate that when you see the bike for the first time. Another Burton thing is there's like it's just a wall right behind it with a
yeah.
painted spotlight, not a
The
real
painted
spotlight,
spotlight. Yeah.
just a white stripe. Love it.
Which then I noticed that they paralleled that in it was the first or second dream sequence where he sees his bike in a dark background, but it's under an actual spotlight. I just noticed that this time, which was fun. Um, but the opening, I was always fascinated with the Rube Goldberg device that makes his breakfast.
Hmm.
And watching it this time, I realized none of this is an actual Rube Goldberg device.
No,
Like none of it is connected to each other. It's just shots of things doing something and then a shot of something else doing something, and it's not really connected, but you because of the music, which is fantastic, Danny Elfman's score is incredible, and the way that it's cut, you feel like it's this big Rube Goldberg device, but it's not.
yeah, like the bowling ball will kind of go, and then just a thing will come into frame, and you didn't
Yeah.
see the yeah.
And a full-on mannequin of Abraham Lincoln flipping
Oh,
pancakes.
loved it.
And I remember being a kid and, he's got this beautiful pancake smiley face. And then he just pours Mr. T cereal all over it and he eats 2 bites and then
And then,
leaves.
which I mean, they do in like every like. There's even memes about how like dad comes down to the kitchen and there's this huge spread, or like the teenage son or daughter comes in, they grab a piece of toast and then run out the door. Like nobody
But
eats fucking breakfast in movies.
yeah, just like,
Um,
the little
so,
Oh, go
but
ahead.
yeah, no, but it bugged me as a kid, and it still bugs me as an adult. I'm like, but there's bacon in there, man. There's
Yeah.
fucking pancake. Eat
Good
that shit.
morning, Mr. Breakfast. Good
But I think
morning.
but I also love the irony of he doesn't eat any of it. But he's still
Hmm.
like you didn't eat shit, but you
He
got that.
like the novelty oversized butter knife that he uses to butter his toast that's super flexible.
I think
Um,
that's how he stays so thin. Is he eats like 4 pieces of cereal for breakfast?
there you go. Mr.
Yeah,
T cereal specifically.
yeah.
And then just some of the visuals, like the fact that uh, Speck, his dog, his bowl, his dog food bowl is larger than he is. Like that dog could swim in that dog food bowl.
Okay, so I noticed that this time also for the first. I realized, was that a joke that I've never caught until right now? I always thought, you ever just watch a movie and you just kind of casually observe a element or two, and this was the first time since 1985 that like I really noticed that like the bowl is placed so it looks like it's in the foreground,
Right.
and then Spec gets up to it, and you're like, oh, it's not a
It's
depth of
not
field
forced
thing. It's
perspective.
a
It's just
giant
huge.
fucking bowl with a little
Yeah.
dog. Like I think that was meant to be a joke, and I only got it now.
Yeah. I did pick that up in the last decade or so, but it was something I didn't pick up when I was a kid. Plus, his doghouse in the kitchen is way oversized for a dog that big.
Mhm.
Um, One of my favorite gags was always when he goes into the bathroom to brush his teeth and he walks up to the window and takes a big breath and turns around and then goldfish just come swimming by. Um, the just that whole opening scene, the visual gags in it. Um, Oh, another part I cracked up at this time that I always kind of just accepted as part of the movie, and this time I legitimately cracked up was, good morning, Mr. Crabtree. Good morning, Pee-wee. I'm gonna water my lawn. Okay, and he closes his window.
Yeah, these are again, these are the things that like as a kid I didn't realize that this was a joke
Yeah.
or humorous. Because I mean,
Hmm.
it's not even a joke. And then somewhere when you start getting older, the fact that like that's how he waters his lawn, And the guy goes, okay, and closes the door. Like,
It's just like I gotta close, and he's smiling the whole time. The
yeah,
neighbor is like, "Oh yeah, he's just watering his lawn. It's time for me
yeah.
to close my window."
I realize you and I have similar journeys because we've both been to Warner Brothers.
Hmm.
So it's fun to watch and go, hey, I've been there. I know that thing. We've been to the Alamo. We've been to the Cabazon dinosaurs. I think, yeah, in Pasadena is Pee Wee's house.
Okay, I was wondering about that when I was watching it today
Yeah,
because I was like,
it's
I
a
wonder
short
where that
drive.
house is because it's got to be around here somewhere.
Yeah, the last time I went, it's not red anymore, but I think it was white, and it didn't have the same white picket fence, but it still has like a fence around the property. Like it's still recognizable as a.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean we're spoiled being in Southern California
Oh,
and having
absolutely.
access to all that. I still haven't been, but I do know I have a friend of mine when she went. She posted pictures of when she went to the park, where Pee Wee's on the bike and the other kids are popping wheelies, and he's
Yeah.
like that. That's somewhere in Hollywood too. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot.
The
My brain just went. Pew.
Well, I was going to say the Santa Monica Promenade outdoor mall is unrecognizable
Oh yeah, that's what
from
I've heard.
1985. Apart from the fact that it's an outdoor mall, you know.
Like yeah, I could accept if like the exteriors have changed a little bit, but I would hope that like the benches and seating area would be the same. But I bet they've redesigned all of that.
No, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's been a hot minute since I've been there, but I think the last time I was there, or maybe it was the first time I went there after I moved out here, I was just like, oh yeah, none of this looks even remotely
Yeah,
the same.
that's a bummer.
But,
But you know,
know,
and that scene. I mean, let me. I'm not exaggerating when I say I think this is one of the greatest comedies ever made. It has a genuine sense of humor to it, and I remember when Tim Burton was announced, like when they were doing Mars Attacks, and it was like it's a comedy. It's this big ensemble comedy, and at this point, I'm still in my head going Batman, Edward Scissorhands, Batman
right,
Returns,
right.
Ed Wood, and I remember thinking Tim Burton's directing a comedy. What the fuck does Tim Burton know about directing a comedy? And then I was like, oh wait, Pee Wee and Beetlejuice. That's where
Yeah.
he fucking started.
Hmm.
But also, I think a lot of it is the fact that it's Phil Hartman and Paul Reubens like writing
Hmm.
this. The fact that I mean, I don't think enough people remember that because they were part of Groundlings, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think you're
I
right.
mean, but it's that class of Paul Reubens, Phil Hartman, Cassandra Peterson. I don't
Yeah.
know if Jan Hooks was at the Groundlings at the time, but Jan Hooks and Phil Hartman had a whole SNL thing. So like,
Yeah.
and even if I remember correctly, the guy who's Zombie was also a part of that group.
I think you're right. I'm trying to remember who
So
it was.
that whole era, like that whole gang, like the voice of this movie to me really comes from that
Yeah.
more so than it comes from Tim Burton. But having that director who understands
Yeah.
visual staging allows it to happen. Because I mean, if you think about it, first feature for this movie is like an animation nerd who directed Vincent
Right.
and directed like an episode of like the Mother Goose episodes of whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Like he directed like two TV episodes. He did like the Hansel and Gretel. But I love when people when these sort of things happen where um like Paul Reubens would see something in what Tim Burton does.
Yeah.
And if you look at Vincent, if you look at what Tim Burton loves giant fucking dinosaurs and Godzilla,
Yeah.
and between there's like I don't know if kismet's the right word, but like you know Tim Burton used to see the Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo live shows, and he's
Hmm.
like, there's something I like here. Paul
Hmm.
Reubens had to have seen Tim Burton's art approach. He goes, there's something I like here.
Yeah.
I could get an experienced director or a comedy director, but this guy has an aesthetic that fits what I imagine Pee Wee's world is.
Yeah.
And Tim Burton, you could tell, is hungry. Danny Elfman, first time feature film score, they've all got something to prove. They're all young,
Yeah.
they're all full of fucking, and they over deliver.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, just the what I mentioned before, the music for the Breakfast Machine. I think the track is called Breakfast Machine.
It is.
If I'm, yeah, out the gate,
Yeah.
that's a home run.
Yeah.
Like that dun 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 dun, and the great thing about this, and this is what I love about a lot of soundtracks, and it goes back to like old musical theater days when you have the same types of themes repeating over and over again in different ways
Yes.
with different emotions for different parts of the movie. Because you hear another version of that same tune, basically, in totally different ways throughout the film. And yeah, music is incredibly important for a film to me. And I think most people would say that either the presence of it or the lack of it. As one of the big things with Alien, the original Alien, was like the lack of music in certain parts made it even creepier. But with this one, with a comedy, it's really important to have music that works for it, and Danny absolutely
Yeah.
delivered.
And if there's one thing that if there's an element to some movies that I don't like, is when like the music is in on the joke and is telegraphing the joke and telling you this is, and this movie
Mhm.
doesn't do that, but it
No.
still plays a role.
Yeah.
The best example I can give is when Pee-wee's in the park playing on his bike and doing all these tricks. The music is building and building
Yeah.
and building and building, and then he hits the curb and flies off it, and the music goes out.
Yeah.
But it's bum, 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 and then it makes him falling off and eating shit all the funnier.
Yeah.
Not only because of the buildup, but the complete lack of music. Then all you hear is the tumble,
Yeah.
and that
And
part's fucking hilarious.
and I skipped back,
Yeah.
and went back, and you can't tell. It's obviously from somebody who knows how filmmaking works. It's a stuntman who does the full-on flip and
Mhm.
somersault, and then it cuts immediately to Pee-wee standing up. But it's done really well.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
even if you pause it or look at that scene really closely, you can't tell it's a stunt guy. And the way it's cut, it goes so quickly that you just accept the idea that, oh yeah, Pee-wee flew off of his bike and did a somersault and stood up in front of these kids and said, I meant to do that. Um,
Yeah, I do know that it's a stuntman though on the motorcycle stunt because Pee-wee's hair is so short, and that guy's clearly got like either a wig on or something. But like that is not Paul Reubens' head. That hair, and I'm fine with it. But and he's a little stockier too. Like he's not as slim.
nice.
But it's such
Wait,
a
which
quick take
motorcycle?
when he
Uh,
drives through the sign
oh, okay.
outside the biker bar. I'm like, that is
Okay.
not Paul Reubens.
No, no. Yeah, I
Thankfully,
didn't
he's
even
never
notice
facing the
that.
camera, but you could tell just from the
Yeah.
back. You're like, that's not him.
I didn't even notice that. I didn't pick up
Yeah.
on that. I was too busy just cracking up at the whole thing. Um,
Yeah, there's all sorts of like little. I mean, yeah, like it's just funny. You just watch a movie over and over to eventually start noticing things. Like when he
mhm.
opens the panel to type in the code to open, the bush for his bike.
Yeah.
That panel, once he flips it down, isn't hinged. It's just held on by tape. Like, all right. It just hopefully you're looking at the buttons that light up,
Yeah.
not the fact that it's held on by tape.
Well, and I was trying to look at that, and I was trying to decipher if like the numbers he punches are anything specific or like meaningful. So I totally spaced on seeing that it was held on by tape because I
Yeah,
was
I only
trying.
noticed about 2 years ago after watching that movie for like 40 something years. Yeah.
That's so good. Um, and it's just there's so much detail that isn't explained and doesn't need to be explained. Like, why is
Oh,
there a lion face on the front of his bike? No
'cause it's
reason.
cool.
Just looks cool, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I
Um,
thought you meant the movie as a whole.
well, that too, but like, I
Because
mean, the
I
movie
mean,
as a whole, there's so much detail that's not explained. And
I
then,
mean,
for example, why is there a lion on the front of his bike?
because I mean, for a long, I mean, it wasn't until like the DVD came out that we found out that there was a setup to the Amazing Larry thing. But for
Right.
decades, we just all thought that's Amazing Larry. He's got a
Yeah.
funky mohawk, and that's all
Yeah.
it is. And
I,
it worked. We all just accepted that in this universe, there's a guy called Amazing Larry, and that's
yeah.
what he looks like.
Yeah, and I think I referred to Amazing Larry earlier, and I was actually talking about who's the owner of the magic shop.
Oh,
Um,
I don't remember. Was it Mike's?
I think it's Mike's.
Yeah, Chuck is the bike shop, and I think Mike is the magic shop.
I have a fun story. Many years
No.
ago, I did a play here in Los Angeles. Early on, Los Angeles isn't a great place to do live theater, uh, unless you're like a top professional. Um, but I ended up doing a play, and it was actually a series of one acts. I think it was four one act plays, all presented as one show,
Mhm.
and we did a run of a couple weeks. But one of the so each one act had two to four actors in each one, so there was probably, I don't know, 10, 12 of us total in the cast, maybe less than that. But one of the other one acts starred Daryl Roach, who played Chuck in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And so I get cast in this play. I'm with this guy. Now this is at least 30 years later, probably. What is it? 85, 95, oh five. Okay, this is probably 25 years after Pee-wee's Big Adventure releases. So this guy's 25 years older. Looked great, by the way. Um, had aged very gracefully, and we're hanging out as a cast, and on first or second rehearsal, I'm talking to everybody, and I go home and I start looking everybody up online. Like, what is it? What have these people done? Who am I? Who am I in this show with? And I find that Daryl Roach is Chuck from Pee Wee's Big Adventure. And I came back the next rehearsal and I said, Daryl, I just realized last night that you are in one of my favorite movies of all time, Pee Wee's Big Adventure. And he just goes, "That's me. I'm Chuck." And I was like, ah, like I freaked out. He does not have an accent. He just has a regular American accent. Like he's does
But he
not have,
said the thing for you.
but he said the thing for me with the accent from the movie. Um, but it was funny because I was thinking about that when I was watching the movie this time, and when they're in the meeting in Pee Wee's basement, and he has that little speech where he's like, "A long time we wait here," and I was just like, I just accept that this guy's from somewhere. I don't know where. I don't know where that accent's from, but so like meeting him in real life and realizing he just has a standard American vernacular, I was just like, that was a little bit of a trip. But he's a sweet guy. He's a really sweet guy. So that was fun. But and just these things I picked up on is like, oh, the competitive BMX guys, these teenagers or like 9 through 16-year-olds just hang out in the bike shop
Mhm.
in full gear,
Yeah, because
apparently.
that's how you know what they're into.
Yeah. And and again, it was just a detail that you just accepted. Like these guys are just hanging out there in their full gear and you know exactly what they are. They never say we're competitive bikers, like we're BMX guys. They're just hanging out in their full BMX gear. They have a conversation. Oh yeah, Dottie's working on your horn. And
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 they all know Dottie Pee Wee, like
right.
they all
And there's no
bust his
explanation for
chops.
that. They just infer it and we as the audience know. It's so well like presented that we're not spoon fed anything. We're not beat over the head with anything unless it's key to a joke. Um, it's just everything is kind of given to us and we accept it in this movie. I
Eh,
realized, oh, go ahead.
no, you realized.
Well, I was going to say, I realized when he walks into Mike's magic shop, he walks into the door and the lettering on the door is readable from the inside, but it's clearly like faded, so it's supposed to be the text on the outside of the door, which means that it would be backwards on the outside of the door, and that was kind of confusing to
Oh,
me
I have to go look at that. Yeah.
because yeah, when he walks in, you're looking out the front door from inside the shop, but you can see Mike's Magic in kind of faded letters,
Huh.
but it's readable. Um, And yeah, that was when the DVD came out. That was an extended scene where he presents more magic stuff to him, and then
Yeah,
we meet Amazing Larry, and then he tells him he should get a mohawk or
yeah.
whatever.
She get yeah. He's looking for a new
Um,
look, right? And he points out,
and so I grew up obviously like you watching this on VHS, and some of the fun things that have been quote unquote fixed with digital releases now is when he's pulling the chain out of the side
oh, okay.
compartment of his bike, you can
Well,
see the chain coming up from underneath, which we always like,
I
we
mean,
love that.
fixed is
That's
as
why I
far as
said fixed
because
with
I mean
finger quotes.
because we lived in a very particular age bracket, you and me, with a very specific experience that current kids of today won't ever experience with Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which was that when you shoot on 35 millimeter super 35, you could do one of two things. You can uh, shoot with a lens that compresses the frame, and then you uncompress it when you're projecting, so that you're using the entire 35 millimeter image,
Right,
or you mat it while you're shooting, like on the monitor,
right.
with data at the top and bottom of the frame that you're not going to use, that it's going to be matted in the theater. So the chains are coming out of the bottom because you were never
Yeah,
meant to see the chains in its theatrical exhibition.
right,
Problem is the early 80s was the dawn of a new market where you could rent and even buy a movie that you saw in theaters for your home. That was
right.
new. And one of the newer things is that studios were like, not everyone was doing pan and scan. A lot of them would say, well, let's just take the original 35 millimeter image
Yeah.
and put it to videotape. And if you were shooting on Super 35 with an open mat, there was data in the image that you weren't supposed to see at home. And when you have a whole generation of people who all grew up watching this fucking VHS, and this is all they knew for like 10, 15 years, when the DVD came out for the first time in widescreen, and we're all seeing it in like, I think 2000 or 2001. It didn't come out, maybe 99. I don't know. But that was the first time we ever saw it formatted the way we were supposed to format it. And
Right.
tons of people said, hey, where'd the fucking chains go? I read the
Yeah.
fucking the chains. Because we also, and we, same thing with the signs when Pee-wee's driving and he's
Yeah.
sleepy.
That was the other one I was going to mention, which
The,
you
the,
still
the,
can kind of
you
see
can kind
on
of
even on the
see,
widescreen.
you can see a little bit of the back end of the track or some cable, but you don't see it
Yeah.
gliding on an entire track.
Right.
The interesting thing is to see that a whole generation never really saw that as a problem or a mistake. We just accepted it as something weird the movie did.
Yeah.
We all accepted it to the degree that when the DVD came out, we all went, hey, what the fuck?
Right. Well, I
But
think
the joke is that there's an endless supply of chain coming out of his bike. This is how the joke is supposed to work.
right. And that is what I think, I mean, that is what the directorial vision was.
Yes.
Um, and I think when I was growing up, I knew that was like, oh, that wasn't that we're not supposed to see that part, but I like it anyway. Like it was like a fun thing for me. And I think the other thing was when I was watching it on VHS, that was full screen TV, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that when they just put the 35 on to the VHS, that's just full screen TV. So, you know, like you were saying earlier, pan and scan when you transferred it to a video and you did full screen instead of a widescreen on a videotape. Um, we didn't lose any information we didn't lose any data in that straight 35 to VHS transfer
Oh yeah.
because we weren't using the matting for the widescreen.
Yeah. Like
Um,
if it was in scope, if it was like 2.35 to 1, you're getting pan and scan. Yes, you were losing images on the sides. By doing
right,
the open mat 35, you technically weren't losing anything. You were gaining things you weren't supposed to see.
right, exactly.
Which and some people, there was a mistake for a long time that people thought Kubrick always wanted these movies to be seen open mat, and it's like no. In the time of VHS, he preferred you put it on open mat than doing pan and scan,
Right.
which then got mistaken. But you can still kind of see them in theatrical, but like in The Shining, you could see the opening aerial shot. You could see the helicopter blades
Oh
floating
yeah,
on the
yeah,
top
yeah.
of the screen. And I mean, even the other thing that would happen, and this has something to do with VHS, this has to do with this sort of film in theaters, was if you got some dipshit who wouldn't frame it right on your
Mm.
screen. Do you ever go to the movies and sometimes you just see the mic uh, in the scene
Man.
because fucko didn't line it up right. I remember
If
seeing Albert Brooks's mother, and there was several booms in the film.
really.
And same thing, I saw, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, in 1999, we still haven't figured this out. Being John Malkovich, I saw Being John Malkovich opening night, and there were so many boom mics.
No,
Yeah,
that was something I never noticed. Um, Interesting.
yeah, but I think Pee
That's
Wee's
fun.
probably the most famous example,
Yeah, absolutely.
easily, of a
Um,
generation that grew up with that.
and those were the two scenes I was going to mention, though, the chain and the signs on the tracks. Which the signs, when Pee Wee's driving Mickey's convertible, that's a whole other gag where it's like, oh yeah, curves, and then it was more severe curves, and then it was just loops and all
Yeah,
over the place and crossing over itself, and then falling rocks, and that those are classic examples of just continuous heightening of a gag until you get to the top. Um, and then it just it's so easy to suspend your disbelief when you watch this movie because right out the gate you're just in this heightened world of Pee Wee Herman that is our reality. Like it's our real world. It's not the playhouse. It's not a magical land. It's Burbank, California or whatever. And Pee Wee lives in it, but the magic surrounds him, in a way. And so, sure, you can drive off a cliff, fall for a full 20 seconds at terminal velocity, then put the the rag top of the convertible up, and it will parachute you
parachute
gently
you down.
down. Um,
And
and that's just one example of a thousand prior to that.
yeah, there's a handful of what I would consider like cartoon logic, and that's
Yeah,
one of them, where you could just open the parachute of your car, or I know we're at a movie studio, but we're gonna pull this wall.
yeah,
I don't know why a movie would have a wall of a soundstage.
of the yeah
Doesn't
of a
no
road in the
movie would be
back.
making a movie of that. However,
Yeah,
Bugs Bunny would pull out a
yeah,
wall of a thing, so that's just there. Um, or even I mean, there's a lot of Bugs Bunny in this, but
absolutely.
to me, it's there's a moment in this. It's meant to be funny, but it's only funny if it's an earnest attempt. And
Mhm.
it's when the gang want to hang him, and then I said we hang him, and then we tattoo him, and then we kill him, and he
Yeah.
goes, "I say we let him
Let
go."
'em go.
But that is something a cartoon character would say to try to get out
Yeah.
of a sticky situation. Um,
And I
and
think the great part about that gag is then they all respond. No,
yeah,
which is I say we stomp them, then we tattoo them, and then we hang them, and
and
then we
then we
kill them.
kill him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I say we let him go. No.
There's also one thing I really want to talk about is the way that this movie played to me as a child versus an adult,
Hmm.
because there's a lot in this that we've already talked about some things and it popped in my head and then I forgot. But like when I was a child, like when you're really young, because again, I was 4 when this came out, so
Hmm.
like your brain is still fucking mush at
Hmm.
like age 4, 5, 6. So there's a lot of things that I would see in movies. I don't want to give movies too much credit for like influencing the youth. Maybe not an attitude, but there's just things that I took, and if I saw it, I'm like that must be how the world. I guess that's real, right? Um, I remember watching Follow That Bird, the Sesame Street movie,
Hmm.
and he goes and stays with some family, whatever. But they live in a giant bird. The joke is they live in a birdhouse, but it's to scale with all the other houses, and there's this giant pole, and their house is way the fuck up there. And I remember as a kid going, "Oh yeah, that's where birds clearly live." Is in I've
Yeah.
never seen it, but that's what Big Bird lives in, right? I've seen Big Bird. He lives on Sesame Street, and that's where that giant fucking bird would live in. And there's little things in this movie that either I thought that's how it is, or reinforce things like I always saw in cartoons when someone's like, "Well, I'm leaving," and they get their knapsack and they put it on a stick and
Yeah.
they're hitchhiking. I saw Pee Wee do it, and I'm like, "Oh, that's just fucking real because I'm
Yeah.
seeing it in a movie." you see it as an adult and it's a joke. It's a cartoon. It's
Right.
he's clearly hitchhiking. He's on the road. He's sticking out his
Yeah.
thumb and he's got his traveling knapsack. It's old timey, but old timey doesn't fucking compute to a 5-year old.
Right.
It's just reinforcing that that's what I've learned through media is that that's what hitchhiking is. You
I
put your important stuff in a knapsack.
Well, I had to think about when he eats at the diner and then he realizes his wallet's gone, and so he has to wash the dishes. You
Yeah.
know, like that's another very old-timey type of thing. Like, oh, you can't pay for your meal? Well, you got to wash your dishes. Um,
I honestly thought that like maybe not honestly, but like the parachute car gag as an adult, it's a joke because that wouldn't work. But again, as a kid, you're like, well, that's what they do
you're
in
like, yeah,
cartoons, and I'm seeing them do it.
right,
Like, of
right in
course, that's
front of
what you
you.
would do. Open the fucking hood. That's how you could
That's
jump
how
off
you
a roof holding
survive.
an umbrella, and that's probably how would work too, right? Like,
Exactly.
because I was seeing it at just the right age to believe a lot of this movie and to not know it's a joke. One of the biggest examples of that, it's not even a joke. It's just the existence of Pee Wee and Francis.
Hmm.
Like I still didn't like this is the first time that I like there was kids and there was adults, and this movie showed me there's also people who look like adults but they're not adults.
They're clearly children.
They get to just be kids all the time,
Yeah,
and even though they are Pee Wee is in a suit,
yeah.
these are two men going, I know you are, but what am I? I want your bike. Like
Infinity.
yeah. So much so, I mean, granted he's rich, but like there is a father and a butler, and Francis is having his bath, like,
He's having his bath.
and he's an adult with all these toys. It's granted it's in a pool, but still, like
Yeah.
these.
But the pool had a giant gold cold water faucet or
Oh
cold water
yeah,
handle and hot water
like
handle
it's
and
a
gold
big tub.
faucet. Yeah, which is another visual gag, um, that oh, he's having his bath. Oh, it's just an indoor swimming pool. Oh no, it's got a giant bathtub faucet on it. A giant novelty bathtub faucet. And
Side
one,
note, and I hesitate to make this whole thing about like just what? Well, I like this line, but I
yeah,
mean the delivery of the master's having his bath. Oh really? Where are they
where they
hosing him
hosed him
down?
down. I was like, oh, there's some fat jokes in this that
But the
may
delivery,
not
yeah.
fly in comedy now.
But the
Um,
timing, my
but
God, the timing,
the comedic timing is
the
absolutely
inflection.
brilliant.
Oh my
And
fucking God, it's so good.
I was looking at the cast list at the end of the movie. The credits are very short, by the way.
They used to be. We didn't used to mention every fucking lawyer and every driver, the
Yeah.
legal department, and
Um, but the credits are just like one one song, and that was it.
oh yeah,
But I was watching the credits and I noticed the butler for the Buxtons, the large man with the goatee and the
mm-hmm.
um he was, they listed his character name, and then his they listed him as Professor something something. I can't remember his name, but
Huh.
he was indicated as Professor, and I didn't know. I should probably look that up. Hold on, hold on.
Standing
Let's
by.
stand by. Intern. Uh, Pee-wee's Big Adventure cast. Um, Professor Tanaka played the butler. Uh, he was born in Honolulu, Hawaii in 1930, died in Los Angeles August 22, 2000.
Mm,
Um, he was
good
a
year.
professional wrestler, and he went by the name Professor Toru Tanaka.
Cool.
His real name was Charles J. Kalani Jr. But I think there were probably cameos in there, like Cassandra
Right.
Peterson and Morgan Fairchild and all these cameos that
Oh, James Brolin and Morgan Fairchild meant fucking nothing to me when I was 7 years old.
I had no idea.
Didn't even know that that's supposed to be like a joke.
Yeah. Um,
Can you imagine being our age now and you watch like James Brolin come out like in the suit with the bow tie? Like it would probably kill when they first showed up on screen.
oh yeah. Um, and I'm trying to think, let's see, Judd Omen, who played Mickey, did he, was he famous for anything?
I don't recall.
I don't, I'm not seeing anything pop up that he's known for, but he felt like, I think I was getting, honestly, I think I was getting Jimmy Smits vibes off of him.
For
Like,
sure.
I was like, oh, this could have been played by Jimmy Smits. Um, and Phil Hartman, but of course he was involved from the beginning. Um, I was always confused with the Buxtons when he gives them the trick gum.
Hmm.
When I was a kid, I didn't understand. I assumed the gum he gave Mr. Buxton was spicy or
Yeah,
something.
like it was burning, like it was
'Cause he's
hot.
like,
Yeah.
ah, and then because then it cuts to Francis and he's just got black shit falling out of his mouth.
Yeah, like the penguin.
Like the penguin. Another connection.
Yeah, but he's just screaming, presumably in pain. I
Um,
just assumed it was really, really spicy.
yeah. And I think I thought that when I was a kid, but I didn't really know. And I was like, is he screaming because he sees the black stuff coming out of Francis's mouth or but every scene, almost every shot in this movie is iconic. Like I just start thinking about, oh, what sticks in my brain? I'm like, it's the whole movie. The whole movie lives rent free in my head because I just thought of when after he gets his bike stolen, after the basement, you know, everybody leaves the basement, the and knitting scene. Then he's just walking through these dark streets of Gotham City in the
Mhm.
rain, and these gang members all jump out of nowhere. Hey, we don't, you know, you're not from around here. We don't take too kindly to strangers around here. And he just goes, and they all like, ah, and they spread out and they scatter. Um, like,
And they are very cartoony gang members.
oh yeah,
It's heightened to like the nth degree.
absolutely, because they come like jumping in, like almost like West Side Story or something in a sense.
Yeah, that whole sequence, even just him coming down the alley with the extended shadow, that's like something out of the Third Man. Like there's a
Yeah,
lot of I mean, I'm glad you mentioned how iconic this is because visually there's a lot in here that again, like Tim Burton, I don't know if he had a lot to prove, but he showed uh, uh, for a comedy and for a comedy of pretty modest means. Like, oh, we're gonna do like this really dramatic visual gag with the shadow and then the gang and the or you know the beat where he's he's missing his bike and just every fucking person on the planet
yeah.
is going by on a bike and a
Well, that
unicycle and
was
he's sitting and but after all these gags we have this last one where he's just standing in front of a series of spinning bicycle wheels and the light is very underlit and push him dramatically as he turns around and it's for lack of a better word there's a lot of very cinematic moments in this
absolutely.
that don't need
And
to be but thank
it,
goodness they are.
yeah, oh yeah, and it just adds to I think the legitimacy of it as a film, you
Yeah,
know.
the meeting in the basement, just that single light from the source, like
Yeah,
it's again, it's giving. How do we want to show that Pee Wee's losing it? Well, we can do it through dramatic lighting. It's not
yeah,
just performance, and it sets atmosphere, and you know, and I think a lot of that comes from the way Tim Burton studied animation and how you highlight things in a very visual way.
yeah,
Even like there's such I never noticed it until this time, but when Pee Wee runs into the radio station, then they cut to the sign and it
mhm.
dissolves to Francis and that random his little thug that stole the bike.
Yeah,
And the radio speaker and the dial is the same shape. So the design of the
yeah,
sign matches to the dissolve of the radio in one
yeah.
state. And I'm like, that's extra. We didn't need to do that, but you did that. And this is all just visual language.
I
Also, I love how cartoon again, there's a lot of cartooning, but I love that he's just like, if you were doing like a 1950s Leave to Beaver, that kid's up to no good with his hair, the way he's, hey,
with
loves
his
fun.
pompadour, his slicked back pompadour, and
See
his
you later,
tigers.
sucker. Like, yeah,
He should see you later, sucker.
like
Like
he's a
that.
bad 1950s boy. You
I
know what
was
I
kind of
mean?
obsessed with that character when I was a kid because I was just like, who is this guy? Like he's like cool, but he's bad. What is he? And like I don't know. I was just fascinated with him. And he's in the movie for 90 seconds
Yeah,
tops.
I love when world building isn't blatant world building, but it's just so nonchalant, and that's how you
Yeah.
build, is by not beating you over the head with it. That's just the world this lives in. One of the little things that tells me everything about Pee Wee is when he comes into Mike's magic shop, and I forget if he asks if he orders and he goes, "No, I'm just here picking up some supplies."
Yeah.
That like the fact that Pee Wee's idea of like supplies is
Yeah.
a magic shop.
Yeah.
That tells you things without, you know,
Well, and there are two things I thought of as we were talking about this. One, another fat joke when the villain calls him Buxton.
ton. Yeah.
Yeah. But also when he's in the magic shop, it doesn't go super blue on any of the jokes, but there's little hints of it. And it's when he puts on the X-ray glasses and looks at the random woman. I don't know if that was an employee or if it was just a woman looking at stuff in the magic shop. And then he's like, ooh, and then he takes them off. He's like, wink, and then like puts them back. And I was just like, what Pee-wee? Like
Well,
it's
but
like,
that's the thing that's so great about Pee Wee, though. When you go back to the Pee Wee Herman show to this, is that like there is like a PG-13 degree of adult-ish humor.
yeah,
Like I get you could see why you would see this and go, we need to give him a kids show.
right.
But it was never, the Pee
This
Wee Herman
wasn't
show.
supposed to be
The
a
Pee Wee Herman
children's movie.
show was
Yeah.
like a comedy show structured around the idea of what a kids show could be. But yeah, there's a lot of again, that's why I say as an adult man, this is one of the greatest
Yeah.
comedies ever made. But you come into it as a kid. Like I'll give you one of the best examples of something blue that went right over my head because I didn't know who the fuck Milton Berle was when I was a kid, and
Yes, I
and
noticed that this time too.
and even if I had learned who Milton Berle was, I still wouldn't have known that he talked about his dick a lot and how fucking
Yeah.
huge it is.
Yeah.
So you reach a certain age, and what do you think I got down here? A duck? And you
Yeah.
go, oh, I understood that
But
reference now.
and that's
But
the
as
thing.
a kid, it's
Yeah. I
as a
didn't
kid,
learn about
he's just a powerful guy who works at the studio, and
Yeah.
Pee Wee's following along and mimicking. It's not until you get way older you're like, oh, that was a dick joke. That was
Yeah.
a Milton Berle dick joke. That's a
Yeah.
Milton Berle. Ha ha ha.
I didn't know about the whole Milton Berle dick thing until like last year. Like I just never
Apparently,
knew about
he
it.
has a big hog. Love to talk about it.
Apparently. The other one was when Pee-wee and Simone are sitting up in the dinosaur and
Mm-hmm.
she said, I want to go to Paris, but and he goes, but what? And I did when I was a kid. I got the joke where he says, everybody I know's got a big butt. Come on, Simone, let's talk about your big butt. And then it cuts to Andy and he's listening in. But then Pee Wee tells her, you got to go for your dreams and you can't just sit there wishing, you have to go make them happen. And then she says, oh, Pee Wee, nobody's ever given it to me like that before. And then it cuts to Andy listening in again. And I was like, oh, that's a sex joke. And that's part of the reason that Andy wants to murder Pee Wee with
Yeah.
a fake dinosaur bone. Um, and who was Andy? Here, let me look at the
I don't
cast.
know.
Because
But I
that
will,
guy,
while you look that up, allow me just to say once again, there's no real joke there. It's just timing and delivery.
right.
Andy, Andy, and then immediately dun dun dun, like the timing between them and the music, because the music really does support the humor and inform the
Yeah,
humor without spoiling or beating over the head with the humor. Music is very, very well timed in this.
absolutely. Um,
In fact, we're still looking at one of my favorite little beats. It's not even a beat. It's just that it's in the breakfast machine. Breakfast machine is playing. Pee Wee sits down at the thing. He's buttering the toast, and then I think he licks the knife. And right when he goes like, the last note goes, bump.
yeah.
Like this, it ends like it's part of the movie.
Yeah.
It's really smart
Andy,
right off the gate.
Andy was played by another professional wrestler, Silo Sam.
I wonder if these like people saw the movie, like, Silo Sam, what a fun cameo.
Might have been.
Milton Berle, what a timely reference. Ah, ha, ha, ha. You know, because there's people to this day who like they don't know fucking Dee Snider and Twisted Sister.
Yeah,
They don't know that that's a cameo.
yeah. I didn't know it was a cameo when
When
I
I
was
was
a
a kid,
kid,
yeah, no, when I was a kid, I didn't.
and I was
And
just like, "Oh, they're singing about hell. That's awful."
I remember being very aware. I'm like, ooh, this is like adult because he said the word hell.
Yeah,
Yeah, this movie's edgy.
right.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's just it kind of blew my mind to watch it. Like I was earlier today, I was like, "Oh, I'm kind of tired." I like, oh, I guess I should watch it. I've seen it 1,000 times, whatever. And I sat down, and I just had so much joy watching it this afternoon. It, I'm so glad that I sat down and watched it because it was such a joy and such a pleasure to revisit this, especially as a 40-year-old man, and pick up on some of the things that I never had. A lot of them I picked up on over the years, and I was like, oh, I didn't get that when I was a kid. But there, like I said, and like you've been saying now, there were stuff that even during this last watch, I just picked up on, and I was like, oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I love this movie so much, JC. I love it.
Well, what is you're talking about what a joy it is. I mean, one of the joys for me is the fact that like it isn't just straight comedy. That there is a level of whimsy to it that
Yeah,
works for comedy, but also is just kind of innocent and joyful. And I think it makes me go on the ride as an adult, but I see that energy is what tricked kids into kind of growing up and thinking, oh, this is like a kids movie, or
right.
tricked parents into kind of going, oh, this is a movie that my kids can watch. But
Yeah,
like you open this movie and it's full of fucking laughs. But you open this movie with the breakfast machine. He slides down the pole. He's in his suit, and then he again
instant
like
change,
you talk
instant
about the
wardrobe.
window. Yeah, which
Yeah,
is great. It's a very simple edit
the,
gag,
the,
and again that's even whimsical. Like he doesn't change his clothes; it's just
no,
boom, it appears. So he goes to the window, and there's fish going by, and it's just he's a giant child adult who loves whimsy and creativity, and that's something that kids can get a lot out of.
yeah.
But it's something that just kind of tickles me as an adult. Like you don't need to put fish in a window, but you did. Like there's so
Yeah.
many extra touches.
Well,
He's
then
just
it's
gonna butter. He's gonna butter his toast. Bullshit. We need to get the biggest fucking fake knife we can get.
along those lines, the biggest fucking toothbrush you can find.
Yeah. What's the joke here? I don't. I'm a fucking comedian. Let me brush my teeth, and I will make it funny.
Yeah.
Mad dog.
Mad
You know.
Dog, which is another Bugs Bunny thing,
Oh yeah.
was always they get a bunch of toothpaste in their mouth and then it's Mad Dog, it's got rabies.
Yeah.
Um, and
Another
like
thing. I mean, I put tape on my nose because of this movie.
I was still trying to figure out is that supposed to be like something that older ladies would have done, would put tape on their temples or something. Like
Oh.
I was still trying to figure out because that's got to be. I feel like it wasn't just, hey, let me put tape on my face. I feel like it was making fun of something.
I always thought this was I'm gonna fuck around and put tape on my face because it's fun. Because I mean I do know that was a thing. You had, especially if you had like a wig or a hairline that you could kind of hide.
Yeah. Or
But
that's how it was like an alternative to like Botox. You put some tape and it pulled out your crow's feet or
I never
something.
even thought about that. I just thought it was this guy fucking around because that's all we did is because we just fucked around. But we did
Yeah.
it. We did it because when we did tape on our nose, we also didn't just do tape on our nose. We went like
Yeah.
that. I'm sure it was something you did before that, but for me, like that's where I learned it from. I learned it from
Right.
watching the movies. I think
Um,
I didn't do stupid shit like like fly out of a car with a parachute or anything. But
right.
oh, we didn't talk one of the biggest cartoon logics. I say logic, and it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. So much so that I cosplay as it when they're coming up on the law,
The
and
law.
instantly he's like, "Hold on, I have a plan or I have an
Yeah.
idea," and then he's just in drag because Bugs Bunny just instantly
instantly
is
in
in
drag,
drag.
and and happen
That's
to
my
have
something
a goatee and
for Mickey.
mustache to stick
Yeah.
on Mickey and glasses,
Uh-huh.
um, and a wig for himself.
Yep.
Like that's not Pee Wee's regular hair. He's wearing a very short mullet-like wig
Yeah.
and the
Now,
ugliest moo or whatever that was.
I mean, it's like a giant sweater.
Yeah,
And
I
it's,
wanted
yeah.
to get a
It
look at that cute little outfit you're
Well,
wearing.
that's, I mean, that the thing just hits like beat after, like within the span of like 1 minute, you have, first of all, if you want to try to apply real logic, that means that when Pee Wee was leaving to go find his bike, he's like, you know what I need? I need my giant
I
moo
need some
dress.
drag.
I need my wig. I need my little pink scarf. Like he didn't pack any of that shit. It just appeared. But I mean, I know you want to do those hang-ups where like, oh, when the cop's like, oh, can I see you for a moment? You're supposed to go, uh-oh,
Yeah,
what? But the fact that like in universe, the fact that the cop is like, fuck, this lady's like, I just want to get a look at that pretty love. Like, first of all, like, fuck that cop. He's a fucking sicko. But I just love it just
well,
Bugs
and
Bunny
I
would
always
obviously he would love to he would milk that for all it's worth, but
Well, and I always kind of accepted that as like, oh yeah, he's just this kind older sheriff who was just like, wow, I just wanted to see that cute little outfit you're wearing. Like that's
I
how I
just
accepted
no,
it.
no, I
But
get it. Oh, but by modern, quote
oh
unquote
yeah,
woke standards, someone should never be asking a woman just like, "Hey, let's take a turn around. Let me get a look at you."
yeah,
Like, yeah, I know, but he's so old timey about it, and just the fact that like, well, to keep this ruse going, I need to kind of play along and be friendly with him.
yeah.
So, you know,
Well,
but
and,
but
and
even after that, they drive away, and I love when Mickey just rips the goatee off, opens up his jacket, and Pee Wee's just like,
yeah, he's just sitting
still
there.
just kind of in it, like it doesn't even phase him to like change out of it. And then
And
and then there's the button on the button, which is he's sitting there doing this, and Mickey kind of looks at him and kind of starts to like get a crinkle of a smile, like there's
yeah, and I
hey.
was trying to figure out, is this wholesome or is this slightly perverse?
Slightly
Like, is
perverse
like
in
I
its
could
wholesomeness. It's
I can
both.
see it like, oh, it's wholesome. He's just like kind of giggling at this weirdo in this dress, or he's just kind of like because he's been in prison. And one thing I noticed this time when he's falling asleep in the car, he's like, what's the big house like, Mickey? And he's like, oh, it's not so bad. You can lift weights, watch TV, write countless appeals, lift weights. And I was like, write appeals? Like he just throws it in there and then repeats lift weights and never picked up on that until
Yeah,
this
me
time.
neither.
But one that I've always liked that I didn't pick up on when I was a kid, but then even when I was like 10, 11, I picked up on this when he asks him what he did. And he's like,
Yes,
I lost my temper and I took a knife and he pauses. And he murdered somebody. He
that's what I was
stabbed
going to
somebody
ask you. Do you
he,
think he is lying by changing it to the mattress tag?
yes, because
Because
you wouldn't go to jail. Well, maybe
well,
in
but
the
that's
universe you would.
because when I was a kid, I used to run around the house and I used to crawl under our dining room table and living room table. And I remember the chairs all had underneath the bottom side this FBI warning. And I remember going, FBI, fucking, do not cut. And I'm like, I was already aware that was a thing on the bottom of our couch and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
So when they said it in the movie, I'm like, fuck, that's fucking like that just reinforced. So
Right.
for the longest time, as a child, I thought that's
Oh
really what
yeah.
Mickey did.
Oh
Then I
yeah.
got older and I have to wonder because I got a real bad temper. It's a good knife, and the little tag on the bottom mattress. Well, I cut one of them off. I thought this could also work in that sense that like Pee Wee and Francis are grown children,
Right.
and he waters his lawn with sprinkler stuff, and that this is what happens when you cut the mattress tag off. You go to jail.
Yeah.
That's just the world this lives in. And part of me still thinks that's actually fucking funny if that's why Mickey's in jail. But also it's him lying. I don't know. I'm 50-50 on it because I think it genuinely works both ways. It is a funny thing where he's like, I cut one of them off and got sent to prison.
I think um I think there's probably a whole subreddit on this.
Mm.
I would imagine so. Um, but I think you're right. I can accept that. I can go along with that. I think he probably stabbed somebody and he changed the story so as not to
Yes.
frighten Pee-wee. But it's also entirely possible in this universe of Pee-wee's Big Adventure that he did go to prison for cutting the do not remove under penalty of law tag off of a mattress. Um, I, as a kid, I thought that's why he went to jail. And that's something like you were saying, we all knew about these tags on mattresses and other pieces of furniture. And that was I may have learned about it from that movie and then learned it was a real thing, you know. But I think then later I learned it was like tag not to be removed except by owner.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Maybe I'm just so tethered to the idea that he went to jail for cutting off a tag because I was so aware of the tags because I used to play under furniture so
Yeah.
much. Um, but yeah, yeah. Then you get. I remember. I forget what it was. An embarrassingly. I don't know why I'm saying this. I spent a considerable amount of time believing that you could go to jail for that. I said that out loud somewhere like in my 20s or like late teens, early 20s. And someone's
No.
like, "Do you ever read the rest of it?" It's like, "No, stores can't cut it off. Once you
Yeah.
buy it, you're allowed." And I was like, "Oh, oh, that makes so much sense now." It's like, "Yeah, it's a federal thing that stores can't fuck with that." I go, "Oh." But I think I was like 17 or 18 when I'm like,
Oh
"Oh yeah,
wow.
fucking like Mickey went to jail for it. I saw it in the movie. It's a
Uh
federal offense."
yep, yep. Federal offense. But that and every character that comes into this movie, Mickey's not in it that long,
No.
but they're so memorable and so iconic and so different from each other. Who's the hobo? Sam? Boxcar hobo?
I don't ever got his name. It's just Hobo, right?
I thought he said his name was Sam. Hold
I,
on.
you know what? He probably is just. I just probably never got it, but
Oh no, Hobo Jack. His name is Hobo
okay.
Jack. Um, but
That's
even
another.
oh, go
That's
ahead.
another one. That's another one I quote all the time. Me and Tracy, we'll just be doing nothing, and I'll go Jimmy Crack Card, and
And
I
I
don't
don't
care.
care.
Ah! Do you know how many times in a situation where I can't wait to fucking get out of it, I just think, ah! He
And then
flings himself from a moving train.
without his knapsack, by the way, I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that this time.
Oh,
Uh,
and first of all, and the build up to that between each song, just that fucking face he's making, where how annoyed he is,
yeah,
especially when he's because boy do I hate when people are manhandle me when they're laughing,
yeah.
and the fact that he like Hobo leans into him and he's like so in his space.
Well, just the fact that he's like, fly in the milk or whatever, shoe fly
He's like
shoe
shoo,
in his face, and Pee Wee's clearly like your breath smells like,
yeah.
or he's
Here,
spitting at him or something.
if you played this movie on mute, or for someone who's deaf, not hearing,
Hearing impaired.
hearing impaired, I'm like, there's an expression I'm looking for, and my has the word hearing in it. Paul Reubens could be a silent film actor because that scene completely plays
Yeah,
all off his visual performance.
yeah.
He's that
Um,
good. But anyway, you were mentioning something about Hobo Jack.
oh yeah. Well, I'm just saying he's just another memorable character who's in it for 2 minutes, tops.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Until and another great thing, just a really nice bow on it at the end of the movie is when they bring back all the characters he met
Yeah.
along the road and they're all at the drive-in for his movie premiere. The motorcycle gang is out there. The whole prison bus is there just for Mickey,
Mm-hmm.
and he tries to give him another Bugs Bunny moment. He tries to give him a file in the footlong. Um and you know, fucking uh Simone is there with her French boyfriend. They came
Uh-huh.
back from Paris and they're driving a little French car to the drive.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's just these details for these characters, they all come back.
Well, and I was always so charmed because to me it was that the fact that like even though he only met them for a short, like I can understand it's a movie and it's a fucking road trip, but like there's something charming about like he worked a little magic on all of them. He left an
Yeah.
impression that they all essentially through one encounter became his friend.
Yeah.
It's a very sweet way to wrap everything up.
Yeah. And gosh, it's just I love there's another movie that's a road trip movie. It's called Interstate 60. Have you ever watched this movie?
I can honestly say, and I don't say this often, I've never heard of that.
JC, I have an assignment for you.
Okay.
First of all, it's called Interstate 60. It stars James Marsden and Gary Oldman.
Oh, I'm familiar with that guy. Both of them.
Yeah.
Interstate 60.
And it's a road trip movie where James Marsden goes along an interstate that doesn't exist and meets whimsical characters along the way.
Oh,
And I think the reason I like, and it was an indie movie. I think it's a couple of the
Bob
guys that were,
Gale.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Back to the Future is Bob Gale.
and they called basically none of the studios wanted to film that one, and so Bob just called in favors. So Michael J. Fox has a cameo in it. Christopher Lloyd has a cameo in it. They have a lot of like uh, uh, I can't think of names right now. I'm thinking of Pee Wee's Big Adventure, so I can't think of other actors who aren't in Pee Wee's Big Adventure.
But
Uh,
cameos.
but lots of cameos, and
Christopher
again,
Lloyd, Chris Cooper, Anne Margaret, Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell is who I was trying to think
Mm.
of.
Yeah.
Amy Smart.
Amy Smart's in it. Yeah. Okay, I'll check it out. I'll check it out.
I feel like you would really appreciate it.
I like Gary Oldman. I like Bob Gale, you know.
Yeah. Um. But yeah, just this kind of character driven story, even with characters that just come in and out for short periods. Um, I love character actors. I think that's so memorable for me as a performer. Even if it's, most of the time people who play kind of these whimsical over the top characters, usually it's comedy, not always, but um, they're so memorable. And I think they, there's a quote from Christian Bale where I think it's Christian Bale. I think it's Christian Bale. He said, it's the actor that makes a fool out of himself that usually comes to mean something to the audience.
Mm.
Um, and I love that quote, and I think it holds a lot of truth. I think it holds absolute truth to it, as far as acting and the impact on an audience. The actor who makes a fool out of himself usually comes to have the most impact on the audience or whatnot. So I think I just love, and probably because I grew up watching this movie as a kid, probably influenced my love of character acting and the actor who chooses to make a fool out of themselves for the sake of the story. They're not just acting stupid and goofy to act stupid and goofy. They're acting stupid and goofy because it serves the story that's being told. And that's what I love about each and every one of these characters. Like even Simone, who is fairly normal person in this Pee Wee universe, is still a little
Yeah.
weird and over the top, you know. Um,
But and here's the other thing I want to add to that, though. Every one of these people is also authentic,
yes.
even in their exaggerated things. She has a dream,
Yeah.
and she can't chase her dream,
Yeah.
but she really wants to go to Paris. But Andy, you know, uh, you know, we're not meant to like Francis, but he gets whatever he wants, and he wants that bike. And he means it when he's like, I'm going to get you, Pee Wee
You'll be
Herman.
sorry, Pee
yeah.
Wee Herman.
Like every single person in this movie, Hobo Jack really is just having a great time.
Yeah, he just loves living in a boxcar.
Dottie genuinely just like wants to go to the movies. Everyone's, even in their silliness, has an undercurrent of genuine intention.
And as an adult, I'm watching this movie. I'm looking at Dottie, and I'm like, Pee Wee, what's wrong with you? Dottie's cute as hell. What are you doing?
That's the thing, though. He's still an overgrown boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though although the movie does, I mean, one of the things I love about it and the movie follows through with this to a certain degree, right? We've got the Milton Berle kind of moments, but like the Pee Wee Herman show has a whole bit about the about wearing mirrors on your shoes,
Mm,
like tee hee hee boys looking up skirts. He did the new Pee Wee Herman show like in 2009,
something
which I
like
did,
that.
which I did see the tour of, and I remember there was, I forget what Mailman Mike said, but there was something fucked up about like a calendar. I don't know, but there was some sexy mailman jokes or something, or fireman jokes or something. But there's always a little bit sprinkled in there,
Yeah.
you know. So it is, there's something for the adults, but he is still, for the most part, it's weird because he's an innocent,
Yeah.
but sometimes he's not. But he's an innocent, but sometimes he's not.
Right.
One of my favorite ones or when we kind of, well, actually at this point we're also almost breaking the fourth wall. We're winking to the audience a bit. In Pee Wee's Big Holiday,
Hmm.
when he's meeting Joe Manganiello, and
All
he's like,
right.
I don't know you. He's like, I'm in this. Have you seen this? Nope. Have you seen this? No. Have you seen Magic Mike? You'd think, but no. And I'm like, nice. I
And that can
see.
be
Yeah.
that can be taken on a couple different levels because Mike's Magic Shop. He loves magic,
Oh yeah. I was just thinking because Paul Reubens is great.
but
Yeah.
um obviously I knew that part, but like I just thought of it in the moment now. Like, have you seen Magic Mike? You'd think, but no. That could be just a reference to him loving magic, and he would just think, "Oh yeah, you'd think I would have seen this movie about magic," but no, you know,
Yeah.
um, which I think is kind of the brilliance of this innocent Pee-wee. The other thing I was cracking up at is I never kind of realized this before. At the very end, when they're showing um, the Pee-wee's Big Adventure film
Mm-hmm.
at the drive-in, and Pee-wee has his cameo where they dub over his voice, which I always loved it. I didn't get it as a kid. I was like, why
Yeah.
is
Oh
his
yeah.
voice different? You know,
But it's hilarious now.
it's hilarious now, but
Paging
then
Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, you have a telephone call at the
at
front
the
desk.
front desk. But then you watch Pee-wee in those scenes with
James
uh
Brolin.
James Brolin and uh Morgan Fairchild, and Pee-wee like just keeps looking directly at the camera in those scenes and kind of like smiling. And it's just like, oh yeah, they had to give him his cameo in the movie, and he loves it. He's absolutely
But
like he's all about playing the desk bell, the
but
bellman.
he's also playing the perfect version of like, I don't know how to behave on camera.
Right.
And like one of the great ones is when James, it's an over the shoulder of James Brolin talking to him, and Pee Wee's mouthing James Brolin's lines.
Yes.
And then also we'll sometimes just look at the camera and then
Yeah.
look back, like every cliche of, I don't know what to do, I'm on camera
Yeah.
and I don't belong here, he hits. Even to the degree where you could tell he's being directed to move out of the way and then finds this spot again. It's perfect.
Yeah, the
It's a
mouthing.
whole skit in and of itself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's a perfect moment.
The mouthing of the lines I picked up. I picked up on that one a while ago, but I saw it again this time and I was cracking up that he's just mouthing everybody else's lines because he was there. He was committed. He had
Yeah.
read the script. He had it all memorized. He had everybody else's lines memorized.
I don't think I ever noticed that as a kid on VHS, and that's one of the things about resolution. But I
Hmm.
think I noticed it on DVD because I stream it on Max. I don't know if Max is doing HD or like a 4K
Hmm.
source, but either way, it's on Max and it looks great. But either that or I wasn't paying attention. But there, because he's not like mouthing it like this, but
No,
he's
he's
not
like
gonna lie.
kind
And I feel like I never noticed that when I was a kid on VHS, which was I think what technically we would consider like 380i, which is like nothing. And we used
right.
to watch movies on fucking TVs that had that another one that actually just broke my brain when I watched it only a few years ago. When Pee Wee is on the motorcycle, it's such a great moment. They're all cheering him on. He's got his vest, like, we hope you find your bike. Yeah. Like, yeah. And he
Yeah.
takes off. And it is a perfectly timed moment.
Yeah.
Driving off right through the sign.
The
That drive off, I can't rave enough about the timing.
well, that's
But
why I cracked up at it so hard today when I watched it because it's like it's the perfect amount of time from when he drives off to when he hits the sign. It's the perfect amount of wiggle on the bike to just to give you the hint that he has no idea what he's doing. And then the music cue, like it stops when he hits the sign.
Well, and I think it's silent, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. Or maybe that's it.
But they all just sort of die down, like the
Yeah.
cheering.
And then it just
But 2 or 3 seconds longer, not as funny. You hit the sign a second or two earlier, not as funny. Perfectly timed.
mhm.
But here's the thing: when he plows through that sign, for years, I thought his body rolled. Only through HD did I realize it's a big chunk of the sign.
Yeah,
And
I
there's a
noticed that.
chunk in the middle that I mistook for the gap between legs. So
Uh
that big chunk to me, like when I was a kid, I'm like, that's his body fucking flying off to the
yeah,
left. It's not his body. His body's still behind the sign. It's just a big
yeah,
chunk of wood or whatever.
yeah. No, I did
And
notice
you know,
that.
and it's still a, here's, this is gonna sound stupid. The chunk of wood flying is still, it rolls in a really funny way, you know?
Yeah.
But I just think his whole body fucking flung. Really,
Um
really good stuff though.
um yeah, I grew up, as we've been saying this whole time, I grew up watching this as a kid, as a kid's movie.
Hmm.
And to now the many times I've watched it as an adult and as I've gotten older have appreciated different things in different ways. But I would agree with you that this is one of the greatest comedy films ever made. Just the well, it's like I said before, it's so easy. They just give you only the information you need. They don't give you any information you don't to understand the universe that this exists in and the story that's taking place. There's not a whole, you know, prelogue about how much his bike means to him. You get it in 20 seconds. He loves this bike. There's preamble. I think preamble was the word I was looking
I got what you were saying.
for. But and with all the characters and the heightened it exists. It's like Jay and Silent Bob. It exists in the real world, but it's heightened to a certain extent that we're ready and willing to accept all sorts of buffoonery
Oh yeah.
as legitimately happening in this world. And one of my favorite parts is the rodeo when he's hiding from Andy and he comes out in this 80-gallon hat with this huge bandana and the biggest chaps, like Holstein colored chaps that you can find, and then just gets pulled up and thrown on a bull.
And
Uh,
not just pulled up, but does it in the perfectly timed. Uh-oh.
and then if you listen to the announcer, he's like, "Oh, looks like he's going for a new San Antonio record. God, he might be going for a new world record." Just the
and
buffoonery of fell backwards into a world record, bull ride.
and half of the fun is that it's so clearly when you go to a close up, not him on a bull, just going
Right.
like we're not going to try to really sell you on this. This is where the humor is.
But that's part of the joke.
Yes,
It's like, and I one of my favorite lines has always been, and I had to have it explained to me when I was a kid, was when they say, "What's your name, son?" "I don't remember." "Where are
oh
you
yeah.
from?" "I don't remember." "Well, do you remember anything?" "I remember the Alamo." Whoa! And I had to ask when I was a kid, I was like, why did they cheer when he said the Alamo? And it was explained to me, oh, it's like a Texas thing, remember the Alamo, et cetera, et cetera. And then once I like computed that, the next time I watched it, I was like, oh, you know,
There's actually like this is has a lot of like Texas humor. Same thing with like he's telling Dottie like I'm in Texas and
Stars
she
at
doesn't
Night.
believe him. Oh, let me prove it to you. Like
Deep in the heart, that everybody stops.
everybody
And
stops. Yeah,
oh man.
yeah. Uh, there's a couple things that we haven't even mentioned that I feel like are worth mentioning.
Bring them up. Let's do
Okay,
it.
for the longest time, whenever people would talk about being scared of clowns, they always would say, "Oh man, when I saw it as a kid, when I saw it as a kid," and I would always be the one to go, "Pee Wee's Big Adventure for me." I'm not scared by clowns now so much that I specifically with this movie was disturbed by the clowns.
Hmm.
Like I didn't lose sleep over it, but when I was a kid, and it's two. The lesser one I'll mention first. It's the surgeon who pulls his mask down and he's got the teeth painted
Right.
over his lips. But I cannot stress to you, people talk about Large Marge being the thing that scared them. Fine. The fucking clown with that black fro,
Yeah.
when they're pushing the stretcher with the bike down the hallway and he's making this fucking face, this little
Yeah.
and he keeps just switching back.
And his makeup is different. It's clown makeup. It's clearly clown makeup, but it's different because the other one has the teeth painted on like the surgeon does.
Yeah.
But that guy doesn't. But it's this very strange, exaggerated smile.
Yeah. And
And
even in the close ups of them gathering the bike pieces a few seconds earlier, he's like, oh, like,
yeah,
he's got this fucking. And even when they're going in the wide shot of the hallway, the other clowns, I think there's one in the middle, they're kind of stepping at a
hmm,
medium. He's selling the fuck out of it. His
yeah,
feet are catching air. And when the clamp comes down and they all flee, he like that clown of the
yeah,
three got the fucking note and gave the performance, you know.
yeah.
But to this day, when I watched that movie, I just watched it a few days ago. I watched it and I remember just thinking like, I don't like the
Yeah.
fucking clown. I don't fucking
So
like it. I don't like
yeah,
it.
those clowns are disturbing, but and I think the I mean, I'm fairly certain the callback there is to the clown he chains the bike up to at the
Yeah.
beginning, obviously, which
Mhm.
I could never figure out when I was a kid
That
why
bothered me as
his
a kid.
face changed. Like why he was a happy clown when he changed the bike to when he chained the bike to him, and then when he comes back and the bike is gone, the clown is like, "Rah,"
Oh
and
yeah. Like, because as a kid, I didn't understand that the like we're physically explaining like how Pee Wee feels in this moment. Like,
right.
you know, I just thought that bothered me as a kid too.
Yeah. I was like,
So
did
much
the
so that after I'd seen it for the first time, anytime I watch it again, and he was connecting it to the clown, I'm like, oh, I know what that clown changes later.
yeah.
Uh, mm, I know what happens to it.
And so I was, I would try and figure out like, did the person who stole the bike paint the clown's face, paint the teeth on his mouth, and paint the pupils in, and or is this metaphor, or is it both, or is it none? I don't know.
It just yeah, it's. I just
It's
think
all over
like
the place.
it's yeah. When you lose your bike, it's shot from very low angles. It's from a childlike,
Yeah.
point of view. So yeah, it's just all. I mean, the whole movie's full
Eh,
of. I mean, people. I'm just saying, like the movie as a whole, like there's a lot of scary shit between the clown going and with all the, even just the little pieces of chain on the ground. I remember as a kid thinking like, I didn't realize that someone had cut it yet. I'm like, did the clown fucking like did some
yeah.
greater force just destroy
Yeah.
it until you realize the bike's stolen later? But as a kid, I thought like it was like, "Har, car,"
Right.
you know. A lot of people, Large Marge is a lasting impression on them, but the
Yeah.
clown, that one fucking clown was a big. First of all, we talk about cartoons. Do you know how many times do they have the cartoon where there's the dream and the devil and Porky Pig
Yeah.
is a fucking
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, the
Oh
Large
Lord.
March thing, I'll admit, when I was a kid, I was like, "Bleh," like we all
Yeah.
were. Bleh.
Well, there's one of the stories in my family is when they were watching it on Christmas Eve, and cousin Andy jumped behind the couch. Like when she turns and her face turns into claymation, cousin Andy just like jumped over the back of the couch.
That's understandable. I mean,
Uh,
there's memes about this to this day. The whole generation traumatized by
yeah.
fucking Large Marge's little transformation.
Um, I was gonna mention because we were just talking about the clown scene when his bike gets stolen. It's such a dramatic shot when he goes back into the bike shop and he goes, Dottie! And he lays on the horn and then just falls into the stack of bikes. But one thing I've noticed even since I was a kid was the lighting is so different and dramatic. Like it's the middle of the day,
Mhm.
and then when he walks into the bike shop, it's this dramatic, like nighttime, you know, uplit kind of scene. Um, but again, it's one of those kind of dramatic things that they throw in there that makes it just more interesting from a visual perspective and then more interesting from an emotional perspective because it delivers that again, like you're saying, his view of the world around him, being this huge trauma that his bike is gone, the whole scene is uplit and dark, and he falls into the bikes and they all, which then is repeated later when he bumps into the
Yep.
motorcycle and they all fall into each other.
There's a lot of even not just the shot of the clown, but the shot of Pee Wee and that like warped lens. Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of little visual flourishes that are part of like a history of cinematic language that enhance both the humor and the story.
I just thought of this, but when he goes to the police station, he's talking to the police officer, and she goes, the opening line is, "And what makes you think the Soviets were involved?"
Which is such an 80s joke.
It's a very 80s joke, but I cracked up at that one this
Yeah.
time too.
When I was a kid, didn't
Over the
even
head.
register. Yeah.
Absolutely over the head. Yeah. But that was another great, just like throwaway one-liner.
Uh,
But yeah.
I actually that clicked for me for the first time on this viewing. I'm like,
Really?
yeah, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like that's fucking hilarious. Why did I never really register that? And I
Yeah,
watch this movie like every 2 years, but
I never
I just
registered
kind of
it.
buy into the fade in of the scene, and
Yeah.
sometimes you just lock into a movie more. There's still some things I not only do I laugh every time, but like this time I rewound it and watched it like 5 times. I will always rewind when he drives through the sign.
Yeah.
Watch it 5 times. But also one of my favorite, I think it might be my favorite moment in the whole movie, and it's not even a line. It's he manages to get out of the bar by the skin of his teeth. They should have kicked his ass.
Hmm.
He walks out and just knocks one of the bikes, and all the motorcycles fall over. And right after the last one falls, they just cut to him going,
Yeah.
and that little. And I think I noticed in HD this time. I think he's got a tear running down his
Oh,
face
does he?
because it looks like there's a tear on his jawline or his chin, but I can't see it here. But if that's the case, I love that he instantly like cries over it. He's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, that's
"I'm gonna
brilliant.
die."
Yeah, I didn't notice that because for the longest time I was trying to figure out if he was giggling or crying, and I think it was especially before I
I
could
think we
watch it
got
in
your
HD.
answer.
But yeah, yeah,
This like stifled cry of just this because everything this, but that delivery of just
yeah. Well, that whole sequence
kills me.
is, what am I saying? The whole movie is visually great, but the sequence, and then when he's like, "Wait, don't I get one last request?" And he goes over, he picks out the song, and he asks the bar back for his shoes, and the guy takes his platform shoes off, and he's a full foot and a half shorter
Yeah.
than he was. Uh,
Also, that is again a very old timey cliche. That as an adult, you're like, oh yeah, one last request. But as a kid, I used to see that in cartoons too. If when the pirates are gonna, like, so that was another dumb thing that like I just thought that's how the world worked.
yeah,
These biker, yeah. But I mean, you want to talk about random humor? Like, oh, my one request is to do my weird
dance
little
to
dance to
tequila.
tequila.
Yeah,
And this, like, what's the point of the gag? There isn't. It's just silly and whimsical,
yeah,
and that's the gag.
and that's how he wins them over.
Yeah.
He wins
Although
them
even as a kid, I remember thinking because the dancing's not working, but when he picks up
break
the
dance.
break dance, when he
Yeah,
breaks it's not a because the first one I can't remember the word all of a sudden the
mug
pitcher he breaks the pitcher.
pitcher. Yeah,
I remember as a kid, I almost remember thinking because like as a kid, I was the kind of kid I imagined that like I'm more likely to get my ass kicked by a biker gang than I am to ever be in a biker gang. So I
right.
like even as a kid, I'm like, that's my way. That's my way. In
Yeah,
or out of the scenario is violence, break things. Like Pee Wee knows. I gotta remember that. Like that felt like a life lesson when I was like 5 or 6. That's how you get through to these people
yeah,
is through, because they are violent gang people and they only understand and respect violence.
yeah.
Which, if you think about it, actually says a lot. No. The other thing I feel like we haven't discussed that I think is one of the more important parts of the movie is just because it's funny, but also it's a nice little. It's like he gets his bike back. The journey could be over, but then there's a burning pet shop,
Right.
which really pays off later when there are two forces going. This guy's a criminal. No, this guy's a
Yeah.
hero, and we're
This
talking
boy's a
about.
hero. This boy is under arrest.
But
Yeah.
there's also a lot where like he can be selfish, and disrespectful in the way he kind of blows off Dottie and the fact that he knows what he's saying, but when he walks away, he's laughing about it. He yelled at everyone in the town at the meeting about his bike. There is a little bit of an arc to this movie in that he is somewhat selfish to a small degree. He learns his lesson earlier. It's when Simone, is saying goodbye and she's chasing her dream. And he kind of stands and kind of like smiles at her and he realizes that like, oh, she's going for her dream.
Yeah.
I'm going for my dream. And like, I helped her see that dream. Everyone at that meeting was there to help me and I just shit all over them.
Yeah.
And that's why he makes that call and apologizes to Dottie. He has a little bit of growth. But now the movie has an actual moment where we get to justify his growth through the fire scene. That's all I'm trying to say. Right. But even though it has a purpose, I fucking laugh every time he walks by the snakes and has a reaction. Especially
yeah. And then he lets out all the animals. There's a chimpanzee in the pet shop for some reason.
Because why not?
Was that a pet in
the chimpanzee lets out all the ducks? It's great.
Then he helped, like, then he's like, come on, let's go. Come on.
Yeah.
Like,
I love it.
And get everybody out.
And then that payoff of that last looking at the snakes and then him just running out screaming, which is fucking hilarious.
It's absolutely hysterical. And I love that part where and those are actual garter snakes. Like, they're harmless, but it's still like, they're still snakes, obviously. But I was always mad because he went in and he saved the fish. But in the last shot where he finally decides he's going to get the snakes, the fish tank behind him is still full of goldfish.
Yes, that's a continuity error. You could tell.
I was also thinking, like, does he need to save the fish? They're in water. Like, I guess the fire could crack the aquarium and it would all spill out. But
two things. One was that you have that thing where you're shooting your, and then in the edit after you're like, fuck, we have the fish tank still full behind him.
Yeah.
Fuck.
No, I know how that. Yeah, I know how that works.
But we do see him scoop some fish earlier. Here's the thing, and I'm glad they had that line. When he's laying down and the police and the fire department show up, the first thing he says is, "There's still some fish inside." I'm like, ah. He knows there's still fish in the tank.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
And I feel like if they're in the edit, like, thank God he said that line. Saved our ass,
Yeah.
I can't get enough of him running out with the snakes. It's just such a beat every time. Every fucking time. Gallery 88 used to do the Crazy for Cult show. I don't know if they still do, but there's a period in my late 20s where I would go to every like Gallery 88 show. And there was, I forget who did the painting, but it's just a very simple painting of Pee-wee laying on the ground with just like the snakes around him. And I'm like, that's fucking art. That is.
And I'm watching this. And I'm like, that fucking firefighter almost stepped on one of those snakes.
It's his body blocks it. I'm afraid. I think he did snap because the one to the left definitely runs away from him. But I'm like, that's a snake.
Did he? I'm just like, did he crush one of those snakes?
Yeah.
Come on, firefighter.
I feel you on that.
all God's creatures, man. All God's creatures.
Another thing, there's nothing juicy about this, but this is the first time I ever really paid attention to everything in his bedroom when he wakes up. And I had to write it down because there is, and I'll tell you why I'm mentioning all this in a second. Godzilla, Mr. Potato Head, Howdy Doody, a drum set with Mickey and Donald and Minnie and Goofy on it, Gumby, and E.T. before he goes down the sliding pole.
And I noticed when he gets out of bed and puts his bunny slippers on, the rug next to his bed is Bambi.
Oh, dang, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
there's multiple Godzillas in there.
Yeah,
I just think
the Godzillas are up in his window.
I just think if you were making that movie today, I'm like, legal clearance would have
the licensing on it.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
The licensing to get wow, yeah.
You've got Disney IP in there mixed with E.T. and Gumby. It's a licensing nightmare.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that was one thing I noticed because I was like, oh, let me watch for little things that I can bring up in the show. And that was one thing I noticed and that's another thing, the whimsy of the first thing he does, he puts on slippers that look like bunnies, and then they go sniff like a plush carrot.
Yeah,
Like
because
like
this
you
is
make
how
me
he
go,
starts his day.
but I noticed that's
Oh,
all on a rug that's a scene from the Bambi movie, basically.
I'm too busy to look at the bunnies and the carrot to even
Right?
notice. But even before that, the first thing he does is he tugs on his sheet and it retracts
Oh yeah.
like a yeah.
Well, and he pulls the alarm clock. What is the
Oh yeah, and it drops the
Oh, it
thing onto the
drops the
record.
needle on the record and
Yeah,
it starts playing. And then he jumps on his bed. Whimsy.
because yeah, full of
Childlike
whimsy.
whimsy.
And yeah, that's to me that the biggest strength about this movie that is that as a kid, the whimsy appealed to me, made it feel like a kid's movie, and made it comforting. As an adult, it's like the strength of the movie. The extra thing is that it's already funny, but it's not just funny. There's like a whimsical innocence to it that enhances. It's what makes this special. He isn't just a funny guy in a world. If anything, as an adult, it makes me kind of long for the fact that he's an adult and still gets to be a kid.
Yeah.
We never see him like punch a clock, you
Right.
know? So, like there's nothing stopping any of us from getting up in the morning and brushing our teeth with a giant fucking brush and putting tape on our face and just having fun. Because that's all he's just, we could all just be adult kids having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that like almost an extension of that, and I think this is one of the movie's greatest strengths, is that it's like Mickey, he's an escaped convict. Simone's a dreamer. She just wants to go to all these very cliched people. There's a very angry, kind of mute, jealous boyfriend.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cliches in story and in beat. And the movie knows their cliches,
Mm-hmm.
right? Paul Reubens and Phil Hartman, everyone know their cliches. Tim Burton does. But they're not playing it sarcastically. They're not playing it cynically. They're not
Yeah.
playing it with a wink. If anything, they're playing it with authenticity.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the movie special to me. That's what makes Pee-wee special, is that there's an authenticity to his innocence and also the little blue on the edges. But like, it's just, I don't know. It's not even a moment that's like a joke or anything, but just when Simone's leaving on the bus. Au
Yeah.
revoir, Pee-wee. Au revoir. He
She's
goes,
leaning
au
out of
revoir,
the window.
Simone.
Yeah.
And he smiles at her as the bus is driving away. And he purely believes, like that smile is coming from his heart. There is an authentic, unironic
Yeah.
streak to this movie. And that is what I keep coming back to, is it doesn't just make me laugh. It's not just funny.
Yeah.
How many other comedies can you actually just I love many other comedies.
Mm-hmm.
I love Ghostbusters and I love Blues Brothers and I love fucking Anchorman. None of them have that. And other movies that have this might be more skewed to kids, but they aren't as fun.
Yeah.
In fact, name another movie like Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I don't know. It's
I
like
don't know.
there's something.
I mean,
rough.
maybe like the original Muppet movie.
Yeah, maybe. I think that movie wears its heart on its sleeve more.
Sure.
I think, but yeah, that would be close.
That's the only thing that came to mind.
And
Is
that's
it being
another
even in the
another road trip movie.
yeah, and I think that's part of why it came to mind.
And-
But
yeah.
but again, it's whimsical characters, but they're genuine for the most part.
Yeah.
They're I
So-
just was thinking of at the end when all the characters come back to the drive-in and he gets them French fries and they're like, "Oh, merci beaucoup, Pee-wee," and he goes, "Merci, blah, blah, blah." But again, it's so genuine, authentic. He's just trying to go
Hmm.
along with their French, but he doesn't know French, so he's just you
Yeah.
know.
I don't think he's making fun of them, but he's
No.
having fun with it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that, and there's also just random like I think he's just riffing at this point. But again, on paper this shouldn't be funny, but when he's like shrunken head, no,
Mhm.
regular
Regular
size, no.
size.
But when he pulls out the big one, he just goes, no!
Yeah. Well,
Simply
and
yelling no cracks me the fuck up.
because Mike just goes, whoa, and when he brings the head up. And I was thinking about the scene when the headlight glasses come back, when he's out in the middle of nowhere and he hears all the noises. First of all, the cartoon eyes in the dark
Dude,
crack
here's
me up.
another thing that was stupid about me when I was like 5. I'm like, oh, that's what eyes look like in the dark, right?
Yeah, you were really stupid
Yeah,
when you were
it's really
5.
stupid. Yeah.
Uh, but then he puts the glasses on and he turns them on for a second, and it's clearly just a bunch of taxidermied animals and then like one live coyote.
And everything else is
And
just like
then
a stuffed bear and fucking.
like really poorly taxidermied animals too.
But
But
that's the kitsch of it, though,
that's the
right?
thing. And that's what makes it so great. There's like a warthog in the foreground. Like,
Oh yeah, a bunch of these they're all predators that would have been eating each other.
yeah.
Like yeah,
But that like it's just those it comes back to the road signs with the progressively more squiggly roads, like just the layering on top of each other, that it's classic like groundlings Hollywood improv, the Phil Hartman and Paul Reubens and all these people that came out of that scene in the late 70s, and is that we don't get a lot of anymore. There I think the thing is when people go silly, it's too over the top and it's not authentic, and it's, all these things that you're saying that this movie is, we've lost that in a sense. And I think also all the old-timey old Bugs Bunny style jokes with the knapsack on the stick and the um hitchhiking with the thumb, and then he puts an
like
oversized thumb on, and even the do not cut off the tag on the mattress thing. Like, I think these are things that just aren't nowadays culturally relevant. Because like guys like you and me, the Bugs Bunny cartoons were made in the 40s. We were
hmm
still watching them in the late 80s, early 90s. Literally like 40 to 50 years later.
yeah, they would rerun them on TV, and I,
Yeah,
and I and I would love to say that you can go look at them on the HBO Max app, but David Zaslav said no.
trying to erase the Looney Tunes from existence, apparently. Um,
Anyway, I digress.
yeah,
But I'm really
but
upset about how like the fucking Warner Brothers app gutted like the legacy of Warner Brothers.
oh yeah. Let's not let's not get into that right now because Ben's gonna start getting upset. But I think a 10-year-old right now watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure wouldn't connect to it in the same way. I hope they would, but
Yeah,
I feel like they wouldn't.
there's certain references and jokes that I feel like wouldn't connect, but I can't help but wonder if there's something about him as a person.
I would hope so.
Yeah, at least from a young enough age. But I don't know. I mean, these kids today, they've all got phones and tablets, and they have a whole new points of reference. But
Mhm.
I would hope that maybe for 6 or 7, there's like I feel like everyone will understand Pee Wee, Francis. I want your bike. Ah ha
Yeah.
ha! Rolls on the floor. Like that. I don't. Yeah, I would hope to God that that still translates
Yeah,
without thumb references, without pulling a wall,
right.
without being in drag and all these things. Kids go, I don't understand why is he in drag? Could be because Bugs Bunny's a dude. It's fucking funny.
Yeah.
He's tricking this guy. Okay, that's all it is.
And well, and just like I thought about the line, I don't make monkeys, I just train them. Like, make me. I don't make monkeys. Um,
Um, uh, while we're just talking about that scene, another thing that I just randomly throw into my life that I've been saying for like 30 years now is I love that story. Little nose wrinkle.
love that story.
Do you remember the first time I saw your bike? I love it. Such a dick thing to say. Like it's so.
It is. It is a really dick thing to say,
I mean,
but it's
and we don't, and I'm not saying we need to go talk about it. I love that the Pee Wee Herman is as a character, and again, he's credited not as Paul Reubens, but Paul Pee Wee Herman as
Hugh
himself.
Herman as himself. Yeah,
Um, is an adult child, and he has peripheral friends that show up in the Pee Wee Herman show. But I love that like Francis is like, no, we need to give him an enemy, and his enemy is also an adult child.
yeah,
And I mean, that scene, the fireworks in their scene is magical. You could quote almost every single line they have,
yeah.
beat for beat. Not a second is wasted.
Today's my birthday. Just like,
Yeah. And
my
my
birthday.
daddy said I could have anything I want.
And he's like, my father says everything's negotiable, and he
Not
pulls
for a
out like a
million,
wad of
billion, trillion dollars.
Um,
Yeah.
and I love the monogrammed bodysuits that he and his dad are both wearing. Monogrammed denim bodysuits with a zip on the front
Yeah.
and ascots.
Because he's rich,
Yeah,
And Pee Wee's the kind of guy that just has a door knocking device on him that he
exactly.
can,
That's the other thing. It's just like it's knocking and he opens it and it's just a hand. What? And then Pee Wee's in the house
Oh, and
somehow.
he does the cartoon creep.
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
Boop, 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 boop.
So good.
Um,
I love that there's that meme, clearly from like a different generation or something. But it says like, yo, like when Pee Wee thought that Francis stole his bike, he went into that guy's house and like tried to drown him. Pee Wee is a gangster. Like,
I also had to think about when they cut to him and the 1950s gang member with the coiffed hair. I guess we're supposed to assume it's Francis's bedroom or office, but he has a stuffed tiger and elephant tusks surrounding his chair.
I never understood that. I always just thought it was a room in the house, and I thought maybe it was like his
Yeah,
dad's office. To me, I always got the impression it was like an attic or like an upper
maybe.
level. Maybe just because so much of that scene is shot low, but because
Yeah,
when he walks the bike away, it's really low to the ground. I don't know.
yeah.
I always got the impression
But
that it was just
it's legitimately like the radio's here, and then he's sitting in a big wingback chair with an elephant tusk on either side and a giant taxidermy tiger over his head.
I could see that being like his dad's chair, like his dad, like they're
Yeah.
hanging out in dad's office. But I do like now like the idea that no, that's Francis's.
I thought when I was a kid, I was just like, this is Francis's bedroom. Like his bed is out of frame, but this is
Oh
just a
yeah.
chair in his bedroom. But I don't know.
What a weird. I don't expect him to have a Pee Wee level of eccentricities, but that doesn't. But he's still an adult child. It'd be interesting. I don't know.
But it does go along with like the old 1940s Looney Tune type of thing where the rich people have,
Yes.
taxidermied animals and mounted animal heads
Oh
all,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. In hindsight, like that's probably what like Eric and Don Jr.'s bedroom looked like. With
Exactly.
that tiger they're fucking holding, in that photo that they killed. Like it's
Oh,
probably in their
Jesus,
childhood
yeah, I forgot
bedroom.
about that.
Yeah.
Man.
There's something about the way it's because he doesn't. There's not even a joke. It's just not for sale, Francis.
Right.
Like he
Yeah.
says, it drips with disdain.
Yeah. That was the original Hello Newman.
It fucking a.
Francis. Where are they hosing him down? We already talked about that part. But
Yeah,
um yeah, it's
it's good.
such
It's real good.
like you could easily write this off as just some dumb goofy movie. But I think if you really take the time to understand it and appreciate it, I think even if you didn't grow up on it like you and I did, if you really sit down and pay attention to the comedy and the timing and the characters and the way that it's put together, I think you can really appreciate it as more than just a goofy comedy. Like my wife can't watch it. It's too over the top for her. She can't like she's just
Oh,
like I she came in and sat with me for a little while and then she was like I can't. I love you. I can't do this. Because it's a little too out there for her. Um and she also didn't grow up watching it, you know. Like I think
sure.
she
Okay.
saw it
Okay.
once or twice when she was a kid and it was just weird, so she didn't, you know,
Well,
decided
and
she didn't like it, but
tonally, yes, I get that, but also visually, like let's not forget, like it's a modest Tim Burton movie compared to later productions, but it's still
sure.
a Tim Burton movie,
There's still some spooky scary shit in it.
or and just visual creativity.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
But again, the clowns.
fucking clowns, man. Again, not scared by them, but really disturbed and like unsettled by them.
Um,
Don't like it,
yeah.
but I like this movie
I love this movie.
a lot.
A lot. I like it a lot.
I think with that, old buddy Ben,
Oh, buddy Ben.
I'm gonna thank you for joining me,
I thank you for asking me to come on and talk about one of my very favorite movies.
which I didn't know until we were texting. You had mentioned that. And I went, what? Pee-wee's? Yeah, okay. I think you called dibs. You're like, if you ever do Pee-wee's Big Adventure, I called dibs. And I was like, okay.
Oh yeah, 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 that's right.
Yeah, fucking A.
Um,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
so thank you for bringing me on for this one, and it gave me the chance to step out of a busy schedule that I've had and take a day off and take some time to sit down and really just appreciate this movie again, which I hadn't done in a while.
It feels
Uh,
good, though, doesn't it? It just,
oh, it
it doesn't just make you laugh. It kind of warms the heart. There's something sweet about it.
yeah.
When they away at the end against the movie screen,
Hmm.
and the music is really, like, it's earned that sweet beat.
Yeah.
That's the kind of movie it is. It earned it.
And another thing where I was like, are they writing in front of the movies, like in front of everybody watching the movie? Are they just writing away, blocking the screen?
Or are they close in front of the projector and then because then they'd be huge. I don't know.
Right.
Fucking
But
whatever.
the background is just Brolin and Fairchild just making out like the whole time, over the top making out,
Sure.
which
A rough day on set for both of them, you know.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sure. PW. But yeah, it's just it's it was a joy and a privilege to revisit this film and to talk about it ad nauseum with you in particular because I know you just love to get into the bits and pieces of everything,
Yeah.
especially with regards to cinema, obviously. And so it's always a blast talking to you, especially if it's something we both really know well and we both really love. It's so much fun to do this. So thank you for having me on movies worth moving about.
It's precisely what it's called. No, no.
Talking's worth moving about.
Yes. But thank you though. But this was a joy for me.
All right, awesome.
Uh they can find you places if you
They
want to
can
throw out your
find me
socials.
places. Yeah, you can. As I always say, and you'll probably have it in the title, but my last name's spelled weird. But you can find me at my website, benkleaver.com. You can also see it. It's right here in the corner of my little screen. So Benkliewer. And that's my name on all social media and everything. I'm also one of the hosts of the podcast, the Con Guy podcast. I do stand-up comedy around LA. I'm getting back into the acting thing, although there was a strike and now the industry's slow. And before that, I don't know if you remember, there was a pandemic. So it's a little weird in the film and television industry right now.
A
Um,
lot of empty sound stages right now.
it's true. Nobody's making Godzilla right now in sound stages on the Warner Brothers lot. But yeah, and so that's what I'm doing. So if you want to check out my website or my socials, you can find out what I've been up to lately and, trying to put more stuff out there as much as I can.
And those links, all the things that you said are in the description of this video. If you
Cool.
just click the more and boop, there they are. Click them.
Oh man,
Find them.
how
Follow
handy.
him. All right. Thanks again. Bye, everybody.